Hello and welcome to today's video, where we'll be delving into the life and reign of Queen Victoria, one of the most influential monarchs in British history. Victoria's reign, spanning an impressive 63 years and 216 days, was a period of immense change and progress for Britain. It's a fascinating era that I've long been captivated by, and I'm excited to share my thoughts and insights with you today. Born on the 24th of May 1819, Victoria came to the throne in 1837 at the tender age of 18. Her ascension marked the beginning of what we now call the Victorian era, a time of industrial, political, scientific and military change within the United Kingdom. It was also a period that saw a great expansion of the British Empire, with Victoria herself taking on the additional title of Empress of India in 1876. Victoria's early life was far from the typical royal upbringing one might expect. Born to the Duke and Duchess of Kent, she was raised under what became known as the Kensington System, a strict set of rules devised by her mother and her mother's comptroller, Sir John Conroy. This system, which I find particularly intriguing, was designed to render Victoria weak and dependent upon them. It's a testament to her strength of character that she managed to overcome this oppressive upbringing to become the formidable monarch we remember today. The young princess was kept isolated from other children, had to share a bedroom with her mother until she became queen, and was never allowed to be alone. Her every move was watched and controlled. This strict upbringing, while undoubtedly difficult for Victoria, may have inadvertently prepared her for the pressures and scrutiny of royal life. It's interesting to consider how these early experiences shaped her later reign and her approach to power. I was kept very strict and was not allowed to associate with other children. Alone, I was by no means lonely, as I had many dolls and toys, and my dearest companion, my beloved Dash. Despite the restrictions placed upon her, Victoria developed a strong will and a keen intellect. She was tutored in a range of subjects including French, German, Italian and Latin. This broad education would serve her well in her future role as monarch, particularly in her dealings with foreign powers. Victoria's ascension to the throne in 1837 was a pivotal moment in British history. At just 18 years old, she found herself at the helm of a vast empire, facing challenges that would have daunted even the most experienced of rulers. The transition wasn't without its difficulties. The young queen had to quickly learn to navigate the complex world of politics and diplomacy, all while under intense public scrutiny. I was awoke at 6 o'clock by Mama, who told me the Archbishop of Canterbury and Lord Conyngham were here and wished to see me. I got out of bed and went into my sitting room, only in my dressing gown, and alone, and saw them. Lord Conyngham then acquainted me that my poor uncle the King was no more, and had expired at 12 minutes past 2 this morning, and consequently that I am Queen. One of the first challenges Victoria faced was asserting her independence from her mother and Conroy. She quickly moved her mother to a remote apartment in Buckingham Palace, and banished Conroy from her presence. This decisive action demonstrated her determination to rule on her own terms, a characteristic that would define her reign. It's a moment that I find particularly telling about Victoria's character. Her willingness to stand up to those who had controlled her for so long speaks volumes about her strength and resolve. The early years of Victoria's reign were marked by a close relationship with her first Prime Minister, Lord Melbourne. Melbourne became a powerful influence on the politically inexperienced monarch, acting as both advisor and father figure. This relationship has been the subject of much historical debate, with some arguing that Melbourne's influence was too great. However, I tend to view it as a necessary mentorship that helped shape Victoria into the capable ruler she would become. Victoria's marriage to Prince Albert of Saxe-Coburg and Gotha in 1840 marked a turning point in both her personal life and her reign. Their union was one of genuine love and partnership, a rarity among royal marriages of the time. Albert quickly became not just Victoria's husband, but also her closest advisor and confidant. The influence he had on both the Queen and the country cannot be overstated. I never spent such an evening. My dearest, dear Albert. His excessive love and affection gave me feelings of heavenly love and happiness I never could have hoped to have felt before. Together, Victoria and Albert had 9 children, earning Victoria the nickname the Grandmother of Europe, due to her descendants' marriages into various European royal houses. However, Victoria's relationship with motherhood was complex. She found pregnancy and childbirth difficult, once describing babies as frog-like. This attitude, while shocking to our modern sensibilities, was not uncommon among upper-class women of the time. Despite this, Victoria was devoted to her children in her own way, and her relationship with them evolved over time. Albert's death in 1861 was a devastating blow to Victoria. She entered a period of intense mourning that would last for the rest of her life. The Queen withdrew from public life, earning her the nickname the Widow of Windsor. This period of seclusion had a significant impact on the monarchy's popularity, and it's a fascinating example of how personal grief can have far-reaching political consequences. It's a testament to Victoria's resilience that she was able to eventually return to public life and regain her popularity. The Victorian era was a time of unprecedented change and progress. Industrialisation transformed Britain's economy and society, while advances in science and technology reshaped people's understanding of the world. Victoria's reign saw the expansion of the railway network, the introduction of the telegraph, and significant reforms in areas such as education and workers' rights. It's fascinating to consider how Victoria, as a symbol of tradition and continuity, navigated these rapid changes. One of the defining features of Victoria's reign was the expansion of the British Empire. By the end of her reign, Britain controlled approximately 1/4 of the world's land surface and population. Victoria herself was proclaimed Empress of India in 1876, a title that reflected Britain's imperial ambitions. While we now rightly criticise many aspects of imperialism, it's important to understand how central it was to British identity and policy during this period. Victoria's role in this imperial project was complex. On one hand, she was a symbol of British power and authority. On the other, she often showed a genuine interest in and respect for other cultures, particularly India. She learned Hindustani, championed the rights of Indian princes, and developed a close friendship with her Indian servant Abdul Karim. This relationship, which caused considerable scandal at the time, demonstrates Victoria's ability to look beyond the racial prejudices of her era. We are not interested in the possibilities of defeat. They do not exist. Queen Victoria's impact on British history and culture cannot be overstated. Her name became synonymous with an entire era, one that saw Britain rise to the height of its global power and influence. The values associated with the Victorian era, duty, respectability, family, were in many ways a reflection of Victoria herself. Even today, over a century after her death, we still feel the echoes of her influence. Victoria's reign saw the gradual establishment of a modern constitutional monarchy in Britain. While she was not afraid to express her political opinions, the power of the monarchy during her reign became increasingly symbolic rather than political. This transition, which Victoria sometimes struggled with, laid the groundwork for the role of the monarchy in modern Britain. It's a fascinating process to study, as it reveals much about the changing nature of power and authority in the 19th century. Perhaps one of Victoria's most enduring legacies is the royal family itself. Through the marriages of her children and grandchildren, she became known as the Grandmother of Europe, with descendants sitting on the thrones of numerous European countries. This network of royal relationships had significant implications for European politics in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. It's a testament to Victoria's influence that her descendants continue to occupy several European thrones to this day. I feel so much more now than I did when the dear one left us, and I was in a sort of stupor. My life as a happy one is ended. The world is gone for me. As we look back on Queen Victoria's reign, it's clear that she was a complex and sometimes contradictory figure. She was simultaneously a symbol of tradition and an agent of change, a loving wife and mother who struggled with the demands of motherhood, a queen who valued her political power but presided over its decline. These contradictions make her a fascinating subject for historical study, and they remind us of the complexity of historical figures. Victoria's death in 1901 marked the end of an era. The world she left behind was vastly different from the one she had inherited 63 years earlier. Britain had transformed from a primarily agricultural nation to an industrial superpower, and its empire stretched across the globe. The monarchy too had changed, adapting to the new realities of a more democratic age. Victoria's ability to navigate these changes, to serve as a symbol of continuity in a time of rapid transformation, is perhaps her greatest achievement. In conclusion, Queen Victoria's reign was a pivotal period in British history, one that continues to fascinate and intrigue us today. Her long reign, her complex personality, and her central role in a time of unprecedented change make her a subject worthy of continued study and discussion. As we reflect on her legacy, we're reminded of the power of individuals to shape history, and of the complex interplay between personal life and public duty that defines the monarchy. The Queen is most anxious to enlist everyone who can speak or write to join in checking this mad, wicked folly of women's rights, with all its attendant horrors, on which her poor feeble sex is bent, forgetting every sense of womanly feeling and propriety. Thank you for joining me on this exploration of Queen Victoria's life and reign. If you've enjoyed this video, please consider liking, subscribing, and sharing it with others who might be interested. Your support really does make a difference to the channel, and do let me know in the comments what other historical figures or periods you'd like me to cover in future videos. Until next time, farewell.